So I believe we will start with the webinar now. So thank you very much for joining us today morning on this webinar on dual fuel options for coastal vessels. As you know, the entire marine world is going through a huge challenge for replacing the existing fossil-based fuels with cleaner carbon neutral fuels to achieve IMO prescribed air pollution limits for 2030 and 2050. So on this, coincidentally, there has been a lot of efforts towards establishing cost optimized coastal transportation solutions within the marine fraternity. And today we have with us Mr. Laltendu Acharya, who is the Director of Technical at Vedam, and Mr. Pankaj Misra, who is General Manager at Wärtsilä, joining us to speak on this. So allow me to briefly introduce the gentlemen, the panelists today. So Mr. Laltendu Acharya is a marine engineer with a vast experience of over 31 years, divided between operations, regulatory, project management, and design. And presently is working on various innovative and futuristic design concepts in coastal, inland, river and sea vessels. So coming to Mr. Pankaj Misra, who has joined us, who joined us from Wärtsilä for this webinar. Mr. Pankaj is also a marine engineering graduate. He holds a diploma in finance as well. Mr. Pankaj has an experience of over 26 years in the marine industry with core capabilities in technical operations, technical management, and business development. Mr. Pankaj has served as an engineer on different types of merchant vessels between 1994 and 2004. He joined the Reliance Port and Terminal and worked as a technical superintendent for 3 years before moving to Wärtsilä. Mr. Pankaj has been working with Wärtsilä in the marine business for the last 13 years. And with this, I would like to hand over and request Mr. Laltendu to start with today's webinar. Yes, Mr. Laltendu, you can go ahead and share your presentation and start with the webinar.
Yeah, just enable the screen sharing.
Yes, 1 minute. So you can go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah, good morning all. This is L. Acharya from Vedam. We'll be going ahead with the presentation of dual fuel and LNG, dual fuel with LNG combination. So today's agenda will be why LNG, why we are discussing LNG today. What are the challenges? The regulatory aspects of dual fuel engine, and the reference vessel and the type of vessel we have taken into consideration. So this is in terms of coastal vessels, we have the coastal or RSV vessels, taking specific Indian coast are the specific operational area. Then some of the propulsion options we have taken into consideration or we have shortlisted. That will have a small discussion on that. Then the equipment which are additionally used for enabling a dual fuel or with LNG fuel. And then the cost parameters, those equipments. We'll have a brief about the equipment which impact the cost of the vessel. Then the LNG ready concept. So taking into regulatory and classification status, how we can have a LNG ready concept or a futuristic design, taking this LNG and dual fuel into consideration. So the why LNG? Why we are discussing LNG? As most of you know, there is a stiff regulatory requirement as far as MARPOL Annex 6 air pollution parameters of SOx, NOx, and GHG gases. And also there is a huge requirement as far as reduction of these pollutants going forward by 2030 and 2050. So in this, with this background, if you this screen I'm sharing with from one of the Classification Society study which has been carried out some time back, and we could see very well by 2030, onwards, the amount of LNG which is going to be used as a fuel or as an energy component is increasing exponentially. So it is natural that marine or marine transport being a major contributor of air pollutants, LNG is going to come in a big way as far as a carbon neutral fuel or a low carbon fuel in future, till we find a completely zero carbon fuel at some point of time in future. So for immediate future and medium term future, LNG can be considered or will be considered as a marine fuel in for days to come. So now coming back to why we have considered this thing LNG as a LNG for coastal ships. Now coastal vessels got a very typical requirement. It is almost like a liner service, and most of the cargo owners are ship owners. And going forward in Indian coast, there is in next 5 to 7 years or maybe 3 to 7 years, there's a good possibility of bunkering and supply chain for LNG is going to come in a big way. So taking all those things into consideration and the environmental and pollution aspects into taking that into consideration, what we have, we foresee there's a possibility of lot of activity towards LNG fueled vessels, or rather dual fuel vessels in Indian coast. So the factors which are taken into consideration, the first thing is MARPOL Annex 6 requirement, which deals with air pollution. Then the stiff target of IMO for 2030 and 2050 GHG targets. Then the possibility of availability of LNG as a fuel in Indian coast. A comparable or high calorific value of LNG as a fuel. And the most interesting part is, since it is stored in at a very low temperature in a very in a cryogenic condition, the pilferage, which is normally a complaint for many coastal owners or many coastal operators, which is minimal as far as LNG is concerned. Then there a lot of work is going on towards bunker supply, towards supply chain, towards technology involving LNG. So we see there's a huge possibility in this aspect being developed or being used as far as Indian coastal ships are concerned. Then there's an interesting aspect. If today whole of EU, Caribbeans, Chinese coast, Japanese coast, west coast of America, they have declared their coast as a ICA zone, where we are not allowed to burn fuel with 0.1% sulfur. There could be a possibility 5, 7 years or 10 years later, or maybe earlier, Indian government can declare Indian coast as a possible ICA zone. Then in that case, finding a low carbon fuel or using a low carbon fuel or a carbon neutral fuel will be much more important. with compared to what we are doing, what we are using today. Probably today we are using 0.5% LSHFO or MDO or MGO, but with 0.1% challenge, LNG will come out as a probably the best option. Now going to the next slide, we discuss about what are the challenges. Now the challenges here, we have divided the challenges into 4 categories. The one is design and structure related. The second part is fuel and combustion related. The third thing is environmental safety, and the fourth is cost related. Now discussing about design and structure, it's being a cryogenic fluid, and to be stored, considering coastal vessel, it will be stored in a type C kind of tank. So the tank location, the storage volume, and the structure, supporting structure plays a big role. Why storage volume? Because when you are talking of coastal vessels, we are talking of short voyages, smaller voyages, and possibility of a frequent bunkering facility available. So in that case, storage volume plays a big role, because the ratio of, let's say, a conventional HFO storage space for a particular size of the engine to an equivalent LNG fueled engine, the volume can be is around 1:3 times, which means in case of a LNG, you will be losing out almost 200% more area in terms of volume. Now, the size of the tank plays a big role over here. So how we can, through our iteration process, through our design, understanding how we can minimize the storage volume. And the second aspect, important aspect when it comes to the location of the tank, the damage aspect. That means the IGF code discuss about the damage aspect, the minimum distance from the side of the vessel or from the bottom of the vessel. So depending upon the location of the tank, those factors are very important. So the location, the structure, supporting structure, and the storage are important. And of course, the material for tank, material for piping, material for ducting, material for fastening, and the dip tray plays a big role. It is being a cryogenic fluid. Coming back to fuel and combustion, yes, all of us know bunker and supply chain is a big challenge as of today, and the lot of discussion going on, and hopefully next 2-3 years, 5 years, this is going to improve a lot. The other specific aspect of this particular fuel, LNG as a fuel, high auto ignition temperature. The diesel oil or HFO or IFO, what we handle or what you are used to, got an auto ignition temperature around 215 to let's say 230 degrees centigrade, whereas the auto ignition temperature of LNG is around 575, 580 degrees centigrade. Another important aspect is flame speed. When it comes to combustion, the flame speed is a very important factor. Here, the flame speed of LNG is much lower than a conventional diesel oil or HFO or IFO. Then the flammability range. Flammability range for it's got a very narrow flammability range. It is from 5% LEL to 5 to 15% in terms of percentage of gas. Then we come, and these 3 things like auto ignition, high auto ignition temperature, flame speed, and flammability range, in fact, in a way influence the engine quality or the combustion quality. So knocking is a issue with LNG fueled or gas fueled engines. And I'm sure Mr. Pankaj from Wärtsilä is going to put little more lights on discussing about knocking, how their design is able to take care of this knocking problem. Then going to the next point, with gas, we know the pickup of the engine or the acceleration of the engine is comparatively low when we compare it to the normal diesel engine. Then another challenge is compatible lubricant for both modes. Since it got a extremely, gas got no sulfur content, so our traditional lubricant, which is used for normal diesel oil or IFO or HFO, which has got high sulfur content, whether that particular lubricant is compatible or not. The good news is most of the engine builders of dual fuel engines have already got lubricants, specific lubricants, which can take care of both the diesel mode as well as the gas mode for a particular dual fuel engine. Then I discuss about environmental and safety. Yes, this particular LNG fuel is have a very low flash point, so it is the handling the vapor of hydrocarbon vapor is a big challenge. So the hazardous area, the hazardous concept, or the hazardous vapor presence pose a big challenge as far as the fire safety is concerned. Then we have a issue called methane slip, which happens normally when here we are discussing about 4-stroke dual fuel engines in this particular presentation. So when low pressure methane or natural gas is admitted inside the combustion chamber of the engine, there's a possibility at low load or a low speed, part of this gas doesn't achieve the required combustion level. So those gas slip through the exhaust lines onto the atmosphere, which is normally called a methane slip. And methane being a GHG gas, that is still a big concern. And many of the engine builders and equipment suppliers are working on this particular aspect to improve and minimize the possibility of methane slip. Then, of course, we come back to the fire detection, firefighting, which is require extra care because of this presence of hazardous vapor. Now, all those things, all these additional safety, additional structural requirements will have a cost implication. And as far as the fuel cost is concerned, yes, it is a dynamic situation right now. We are not very sure about the fuel cost. What will be the fuel cost after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, both in terms of LNG fuel cost as well as normal conventional fossil fuel of IFO, HFO, LSHFO, and diesel oil, MGO or MDO. Similarly, engine and equipment. At this point of time, there is a cost factor available, but what happens after 3 years, 5 years? What is the demand and supply? What will be the cost? Those things has to be taken into consideration. We require special material for tank support, structure, piping, ducting, insulation, drip tray, which is costly material. So this will pose additional cost as per the design and construction of these vessels are concerned. Then, of course, additional safety and environmental requirement. So this is a slide where we are discussing about IGF code, which basically deals with low flash point gas fuel. So the complete functional and functional requirements and of all the appliances and their arrangements, their everything has been discussed in this IGF code, and IGF code has come into force since 1st January 2017. As you could see, chapter 1 to chapter 15 talks about various aspects of the equipment, structure, installation arrangement. Then part A2 talks about ethyl and methyl alcohol, which is not of our concern as far as this particular presentation is concerned. Then part B and part C talks about manufacturing workmanship testing, and part C, also chapter 17, talks about operational requirements and training. The interesting part of this particular regulation for this particular code is we can consider it as a new age regulation, which basically based on risk assessment and goal base. And coincidentally, our design for a coastal vessel also involves a goal-based approach or a risk management or risk assessment and risk mitigation methodology. So the next slide will be discussing about those aspects. As you could see, the biggest challenge for a LNG fueled vessel over a conventional IFO or MDO fueled vessel is the storage space, the tank volume, the handling of cryogenic and hazardous fluid, additional ventilation, safety, firefighting requirement, and the location and the loss of cargo volume because of this LNG tanks. Now, the reference vessel, what you have taken into consideration while discussing this LNG fuel coastal vessels, it could be a bulk carrier, tanker, or even a RoPax vessel. The DWT is around between 8,000 to 10,000 tons. Length could be anywhere between 105 or 110 meters to 125 meters. Why we are limited to 125 meters? This is based on our knowledge of jetty size, the dry docking facility available, and of course the principal dimension like draft and beam, those things. Speed, we have taken as 9 to 10 knots for our reference, for our discussion. Not more than that. Why? Because knowing it very well, the opportunity for a coastal vessel to operate beyond that speed with so much of traffic, so much of fishing traffic and coastal traffic is not a feasible option. But yes, while discussing about RoPax vessel, we can consider a speed of 14 to 15 knots. Beam we have taken 18 to 22 meter. That's the span. Draft anywhere between 4.7 to 6 meter, or it could be little more than 6 meter depending upon the draft available in a particular minor port or a small port. Taking all this above into consideration, the propulsion power, we have range, what we have considered is twin screw between 1100 kilowatt to around 1800 kilowatt, or little more than that, maybe up to 2000 kilowatt. Engine we have taken into consideration is 4-stroke dual fuel with LNG. Why not 2-stroke? Because in this range, 2-stroke engines are not many, and so far probably none of the engine makers have made 2-stroke engine with this kind of power, effective power. Then propulsion system, what we have taken into consideration for a coastal vessel of this size, this dimension, and this description, either it can be a CPP, controllable propeller, or it can be a electric steerable or mechanical steerable. Complement is around 12 to 14. This is, we have shared on the screen, we have shared one particular bulk carrier with this kind of parameters. And then, of course, we have shown certain other concepts of location of LNG tanks, which is probably the biggest challenge when it comes to this size of the coastal vessel is concerned. So as you could see, this LNG tanks can be located in various places, ahead of accommodation, aft of accommodation, somewhere at the raised deck, even if it can be placed vertically. So the interesting challenge will be to reduce the cost, whether we should go for 2 tanks or 1 tank, whether 1 tank capacity is good enough, which would require a frequent bunkering arrangement, whether we have bunkering facility available en route or at the discharge or loading port. So all those factors have to be taken into consideration while deciding the tank capacity, the location, and the size. Similarly, for other parameters like whether the lot of iteration need to be carried out to reach the most optimal level or the best possible design for a particular cargo transport or a particular owner. Now here, the next slide, we are discussing about the vessel type and the options we have discussed. Now we come to back to what are the engine and propulsion system we can have. We have not taken into consideration for this particular size of the vessel or this the fixed propeller arrangement. Why? Because engine by inherently LNG engines are slower to respond, and the pickups are or the acceleration of the engine are much relatively slow with compared to diesel engine. So a conventional FPP would pose certain operational difficulty. That is why after discussion with certain engine builders and taking consideration of certain designs which are been operating in various parts of the world, we have shortlisted that a CPP arrangement will be a better arrangement for a coastal vessel of this size. And why twin screw? Twin screw gives us a certain kind of a redundancy. Even if there is a problem with a gas supply system of one engine, we can still operate the second engine. And CPP also gives us the advantage of a smaller propeller, and which in turn help us operating the vessel in a low UKC, lower underkill areas. We have divided the our suggestion over here for this kind of design is we can go in two phases. Since we are going for a dual fuel engine, we can go in two phases. The first phase will have a dual fuel engine which can either operate on MDO or IFO with two shafting for CPP and rudder steering. And at a subsequent stage, at phase 2, once the bunkering and supply chain is available, once the technology and support system is matured in Indian coast, the owner can go for a phase 2 where the entire gas supply system, the LNG supply system can be installed. So this is our proposal for the option 1. Then we go to option 2. So what happens in phase 1? The DF, the dual fuel engine, the shafting system, the CPP and associated system, the IFO tanks or HFO tanks, and the tank heating, tank purification system is designed, installed, and we leave out space for LNG plant and the LNG system, and the vessel operates in normal way till we reach a suitable time where the second phase can be installed, or the LNG pack or the LNG supply system can be installed on board. So that can be any time after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, depending upon the commercial requirement or the commercial, the availability of the gas. So in the second phase, we put the LNG pack, the entire LNG pack system, the pipelines and fittings of the DF engine, gas valve, which constitutes of gas valve unit, bunkering station, control station, gas detection, ventilation, and safety firefighting system, which can be installed at the second phase. Similarly, for option 2, we have gone for a steerable, electrical steerable or azimuth propulsion system. This also can be replaced with a mechanical steerable propeller. Similarly, here also we go by phase 1, where the DF engine along with the alternator, switchboards, cabling, everything will be done. And in the second phase, the LNG pack, the pipelines, fitting, gas valve unit, bunkering system, control system, gas detection, ventilation, safety, and firefighting system can be installed. So the idea of suggesting this two-phase installation is to distribute the capex for a reasonable period, let's say 3 years or 5 years, depending upon the owner's financial plan. or financial goal. And also, we feel that designing a LNG dual fuel engine at this stage takes a lot of time. It could be anywhere between 12 to 16 months. Since the cargo system, the bunkering system, the cargo system, the combustion, the engine, the technology, the equipments, everything is still further developing. And we need a lot of iteration to reach the optimal level or the optimum design. The process has to start very early. And a period of 12 to 14 months or 16 months will be probably reasonable to design the concept or the basic design of a LNG fuel vessel. Though the bunkering system, supply system, the fuel supply system, or the fuel supply is not available right now in India, but we are sure that while we carry out this concept design and basic design, and while the vessel is being built, contracted and built, by 2, 3 years, 4 years, the supply chain will be very much available in India. So now coming back to the next slide of LNG equipment, these are certain typical LNG equipment. On the right hand side top, nutshell, we have shown how the engine, the ventilation system, and the gas valve unit room is symmetrically present. And then, of course, the individual component of storage tank, the heat exchangers, the gas valve unit, all this are shown. So this is a schematic representation of how the entire LNG DF pack can be installed in 2 phases. On the left hand side, the phase 2, where it involves the bunkering, inerting, a tank, fuel system, gas valve unit. And on the right hand side, which is almost like a conventional vessel, except the LNG space, which we have to be designed and left out. It shows the engine, the exhaust gas venting system, the crankcase, and the pilot. The only difference is here. It is a DF engine instead of a conventional IFO or diesel engine. Then we come back to the strategy for this. In fact, there have already been many vessels, many coastal vessels in Europe involving ferry, tugs, and smaller container vessels are already operating, already converted to dual fuel engines. We suggest over here, as I said, the basic and the concept design can take anywhere between 12 to 14 months because it involves rationalization of all commercial requirements, design requirements, availability of engine, yard, equipment, expertise, integration of each and every component involved of dual fuel engine and dual fuel and LNG supply system. So the strategy for this can be in 2 stages. The first stage is what we call it a concept level, or a concept of dual fuel engine, dual fuel vessel is prepared, taking into all the commercial and business requirement, the commercial goals, the business goals, the cargo it's going to transport, the cargo handling system, the draft, the jetty size, all those things have to be integrated very closely. And then we decide about the bunkering, tank capacity, engine power. Then, of course, once those are decided, then you go to the next phase of the LNG equipment, LNG pack, what we call normally LNG pack. Once this concept is ready, the entire thing can be presented to a class, particular class, and a design in principle can be obtain. So once that is done, then the next phase of contracting the yard, contracting the equipment manufacturer, contracting the engine, those things can be taken care of. Once those are decided, that can be integrated into the basic design, and then the design, the subsequent design process can move on. So this is a diagrammatic representation of how we can go about this a particular this futuristic concept or the design of a dual fuel vessel. And I think that's all from me as far as this presentation is concerned. I hand over to Mr. Pankaj for his presentation towards engine equipment, LNG equipment, etc. And we'll be happy to answer questions on these two presentations at the end of the second.
Thank you, Mr. Laltendu. Thank you for the presentation. I would also like to add to everyone here in the webinar that if any questions you do have, please post them in the chat section, and we would definitely answer all and try to answer all at the end of the presentation. Now, I would request Mr. Pankaj Misra to kindly go ahead and continue with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abhijit and Mr. Acharya. I first would like to thank Vedam for giving me this opportunity to present the Wärtsilä dual fuel engines here. Good afternoon to all. My presentation will be comprising of the introduction part, mainly addressing the fuel flexibility with regards to the kind of business challenges. Then in particular 20DF, the value propositions, target installations and application types, and some of the references. So as highlighted by Mr. Acharya today, the shipping industry is facing the biggest challenge of decarbonization. The ambition level set by IMO for 2030 and 2050 are quite challenging. This becomes more critical as ships being built today will be part of fleet 2030 and beyond. Thus, they will be the part of the fleet emission calculations. There are business risks that must be considered while we are looking forward to the future fuels. First of the point is the availability of the fuel. This will be restricted due to the local regulations, feedstock, production capacities, and existing infrastructure. There will be increased capex and opex because the carbon neutral fuels would require existing equipment to be replaced and are likely to be more expensive than the fossil fuels, at least initially. There will be additional cost for storage, which will be added to the capex. Then there will be impact on the vessel structures, as many of the carbon neutral fuels will have the lower volumetric energy density compared to the HFO and LNG. And this will require larger tank to maintain the same vessel endurance. This will also pose up some increased complexity when we talk about handling cryogenic or toxic fuels, which will require more complex solutions to comply with the rules and regulations. And then the last one, there will be a mismatch between the number of shipyards capable of handling the fuel conversion work and the size of the international commercial fleet. So how this business risk can be minimized if a ship owner has to take a decision today? One way to address this risk is through the fuel flexibility. The more flexibility you have in vessel and operations, the higher the likelihood that you can mitigate the risk successfully. Now here I have taken the diesel engine running on diesel cycle and a dual fuel engine which is running on Otto cycle and diesel cycle as well. So this slide basically demonstrates that how the basically the flexibility can be realized while considering some of the future fuels. If we talk about the diesel cycle, the biodiesel fuels in the future can seamlessly run on the diesel cycle. There will be no problem. When we talk about ammonia and methanol, then we do need to do the retrofit of the engines. At least the top half of the engine has to be changed. Then coming down to the dual fuel engines on the Otto cycle. The DF engine on Otto cycle will have all those capability to run on biodiesel, ammonia, methanol. And besides this, on the Otto cycle, it can burn bio-LNG, synthetic LNG, as these are simply methane with the terms, if you're talking about the terms in terms of bunkering engine operations. So this can be handled very well with the dual fuel engines on the Otto cycle. So starting on the dual fuel engine cycle will mitigate the risk for retrofitting. Going forward on the Wärtsilä dual fuel engine portfolio, the portfolio has engines from 0.5 megawatt up to 18.3 megawatt power. And these are basically placed presently across all the marine segments these engines are operating. The Wärtsilä DF engine portfolio is compliant with IMO Tier 3 regulation in gas mode. This technology has been successfully tested and demonstrated with mixing hydrogen into LNG to further reduce the emission with potential to meet the 2030 IMO requirements. The DF technology with Wärtsilä has already been successfully also applied in marine application using a mixture of LVOC, that is liquid volatile organic compound, and LNG as a fuel to reduce the emissions. The Wärtsilä DF technology is also in use in running on ethane as a fuel in marine applications today. Well, going forward, these dual fuel engines have been introduced with precise combustion control by firing pressure monitoring, variable valve timings, and automatic combustion parameter control. The DF engines have automatic crankcase ventilation gas, methane content control on IGC ships with the mandatory crankcase gas monitoring systems. These are enabled with lower fuel methane number with reduced NOx sensitivity up to 70 methane number. And this answers to one of the questions which Mr. Acharya has prompted, that how these engines are basically equipped to bring down the knocking. So as I said, that this is done through precise combustion control with variable valve timing and automatic combustion parameter control. We monitor the firing pressures, and accordingly the system tune it to operate at next level. So in particular, Mr. Acharya has presented some of the power in the coastal vessel requirement, and the Wärtsilä basically 20 DF fits perfectly fine as far as the powers are concerned. I would like to touch upon this particular engine. This can be operated on natural gas, LNG, ethane gas, MDF, biofuel, and HFO. This has the capability to instantly switch over from gas to diesel mode without any loss of power. There are no operating restrictions if we apply this engine from 0 to 100% MCR in the gas mode. This fulfills the IMO Tier 3 requirement in gas mode without any after treatment. Presently, the minimum LNG methane number is 75, and there is a development for the C-type 20 DF engine where the methane number has been successfully tested up to 70. Some of the parameters with regards to the cylinder output, brake mean effective pressure, about 22 here, and cylinder configuration with inline engines 6, 8, and 9L. And the turbocharger location is flexible. The liquid types, as I said, that can be presently liquid biofuels, HFO, MDO, LFO, and NOx optimization, IMO Tier 3 in gas mode and EPA Tier 3. When we talk about the value proposition of this particular engine, this is best in its class, the most compact and lightweighted dual fuel engine with highest power to weight ratio. It facilitates the smallest engine room. It gives you the more maintenance space and eventually turns up into the biggest transported payload if we compare in the same family of engines available from other vendors. The engines has one single lube oil requirement, and this is basically on all the operation for different fuels, which basically turns out to be a lower operating cost for the ship owners and operators. Some more point on the fuel flexibility side, that these engines can run from 0% to 100% MCR continuously in gas mode, and they are capable of starting and stopping in gas mode. This is one of the features which differentiates us from the other manufacturers. So this feature, when we are talking about coastal vessel operations as described by Mr. Acharya, these operations will have a lot of time period in maneuvering and low load running. So in that case, basically the vessel needs not to be changed over from LNG to MDO. Our dual fuel engine can continuously operate, maneuver, stop, start in gas mode directly. Then one of the points which has come also regarding the load ramp up, like how much time is required to go from 0 to 100% load. This is just 80 seconds for these 20 DFE. When we talk about the experience and applications here, more than 350 engines of this particular model has been delivered with over 2,500 cylinders and about 1 million running hours in the field. There are a vast range of application ranging from offshore support vessels to LNG, CNG carriers, to ferries, to coastal multi-vessels, multi-purpose vessels, and inland waterways, tugboats, fishing vessels, and dredges. Wärtsilä has the unique offering of providing the complete fuel gas supply system, the complete LNG power supply. And as Mr. Acharya has mentioned, that these C-type tanks can be basically placed on deck. These can be a single wall or a double wall on the deck, but suppose if these has to be provided below the deck, then this has to be a double wall if we talk about, maintenance requirement, ventilation requirement, and fulfilling the classification regulations. This is a simple PNID diagram showing that how the complete fuel gas supply system works in conjunction with the dual fuel engines. What Wärtsilä can cater here is complete designing and supply of bunkering stations, LNG C-type tank, the complete evaporators, the pressure buildup evaporator, the main gas supply evaporator, all the instruments and valves, the glycol water mixture heat exchangers and complete unit, the gas valve unit. And these gas valve unit can on specific requirements can be also integrated with tank room. And in some of the requirement where there is a requirement of engine operation during bunkering, these small changes can be catered to fulfill the needs. Then, as Mr. Acharya has presented the diesel electric operations as a second option, I will just complement that this diesel electric configuration can also be supported by hybrid energy management system. So basically in hybrid energy management system, we have a hub of controlling energy flow from various energy sources. So this basically the configuration of hybrid system depends that what kind of operational profile we have on the vessel, and integrating the energy storage, like the energy which is coming from battery. It can facilitate some of the vessel operations when the vessel is running on idling, or it's running on very low load. So this what in turns out at that the engine is always running on the optimum load, and that is why it has got the best SFOC and reduced number of engine running hours, which reduces the basically the operational cost and the installed power of the vessel. So we have about 334 references from diesel, electric, and hybrid energy system. This is one of the market which is quite growing now mainly in Europe and Asia now. Now, Wärtsilä can basically support on the complete life cycle solutions, which basically enhances the asset performance, extend support to marine operators in more precise business planning, performance optimization, and basically the flexible maintenance point of view. So these life cycle solutions are based on gathering and processing of data, advanced analytics by our experts, continuous performance improvement, and this can be offered according to the need as required by operator. Like we can have optimized maintenance, whereas based on dynamic maintenance plan schedule, the timelines between the overhaul can be extended. I mean, it's taking class on board. It's class approved that we extend the time between overhauls, monitoring the data. Then when we talk about optimized operation, this is one level up, where we talk about the efficiency of the complete system, and we see that in real-time monitoring and advisory system, how we can improve on energy efficiency. Then thirdly, where the requirements of operations are very stringent, we can guarantee the operational reliability and uptime of the systems, and this basically puts the operators and owners in peace of mind and saving of operational costs through improved and maintain ships efficiency. The total dual fuel engines references from Wärtsilä, more than 2,100 DF engines are in operation with 26 million running hours in the field. And as I said, these are present across all the segment of vessels in marine world. So just to basically highlight some of the key points, now the assessment of energy efficiency is very important in global finance for the shipping industry, and they really see at design stage that how the energy efficiency of the vessel can be linked with financing options. Then of course energy efficiency can take us a long way, but then there will be not enough to actually meet the target of IMO 2030 and 2050. So if suppose owner or operator has to decide, so he has to invest in fuel flexibility and such that he will mitigate compliance and business risk introduced by the future fuels. Wärtsilä will continue to be the supplier of complete system regardless of the fuel, and the Wärtsilä DF engine is an excellent choice for introducing the future fuels. As I said that we have tested about 20% hydrogen mixing with the LNG. We have already tried out the engines, and by going forward, we keep on developing this technology further. So these are proven engines, and overall the kind of flexibility it gives to meet the future IMO requirement is this provide a solution that these fuels, future fuels can be burned with minimal changes in with regards to retrofitting or adding to the cargo containment system GSS systems, which will be required as per the future fuel. So Abhijit, that's all from my side, and I'm open for question and answer sessions. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Pankaj. So